For anyone connected to Manchester United, that result transcended the mere loss of 3 points. It was a profound humiliation, a glaring exposure of fundamental flaws played out in front of a disbelieving Old Trafford. A 0-0 draw against 10 men would have been bad enough, but to concede and lose the game entirely speaks to a deeper, more systemic failure. This wasn't a simple off day. It was a comprehensive breakdown in tactics, mentality, and leadership. The moment Idrissa Gueye received his red card in the 13th minute should have been the defining event, a gift that made victory inevitable. Instead, it became the catalyst for United's own undoing, revealing a team utterly unprepared for the psychological simplicity of a one-man advantage. The immediate aftermath of the red card was telling. Rather than sensing blood and surging forward with ruthless intent, Manchester United's approach became strangely passive, almost casual. There was a palpable relaxation, as if the players believed the goal would simply materialise through the natural order of things. This fatal assumption gifted Everton the most precious commodity, time to reorganise. And reorganise they did, with remarkable discipline and clarity. Credit must flow to Everton and their manager, David Moyes, a coach renowned for instilling defensive structure. Without hesitation, his team coalesced into a compact 4-4-1 low block, a formation that became an intelligent tactical track, rather than a desperate scramble for survival. This match exposed the fundamental flaw in the club's current project, the recruitment of players who may not perfectly fit the system's demands, and a system that itself cannot flex to meet specific match contexts. It raised acute questions about positional deployment, such as moving the team's primary creative fulcrum into a less influential role to accommodate other pieces. The loss represents a critical crossroads. It forces a serious interrogation of whether the current managerial philosophy and its unwavering execution are truly compatible with the club's stated ambitions of winning major trophies. The combination of tactical failure on the pitch and a lack of decisive corrective action from the sideline points toward a larger identity crisis. This defeat was the ultimate test of character under favourable circumstances, a test that Manchester United failed. Losing at home to an Everton side that hadn't won at Old Trafford in a decade exposed more than poor form. It revealed a team that panics under pressure and a footballing structure that lacks a clear plan B. The issue now transcends the next fixture. It underscores a deep and urgent need to rebuild a culture of resilience. A task that may require not just tactical evolution, but a fundamental reassessment of the mentality embedded within the playing squad. This defensive shape was meticulously designed to suffocate United. The space between Everton's defensive and midfield lines was virtually eliminated, creating a dense, impenetrable central fortress. This strategic move effectively cut off the oxygen for United's attackers, denying them any room to run in behind or receive passes between the lines. The consequence was a pattern of sterile, predictable possession for United. Endless sideways passes in front of a blue wall, posing no genuine threat. In this context, Jordan Pickford's performance ascended beyond mere shot-stopping. He became the unwavering final piece of the puzzle, a commanding presence whose saves reinforced the growing belief of his outfield teammates. His composure was a wall against United's growing anxiety. What was truly striking was the palpable energy and communication emanating from the 10 men in blue. Every player fought for every blade of grass, shouting instructions and covering for each other with a commitment that made them appear the more energised, more unified side. They were fueled by a singular, unifying purpose: defend the box and survive. Each minute that passed without a United goal was a psychological victory, a deposit into their bank of collective belief. Their disciplined shape was not just tactically sound, it was psychologically suffocating. As Moyes himself acknowledged, getting a result with 10 men at Old Trafford was a monumental challenge met with a brilliant performance rooted in resilience, toughness and commitment. Everton transitioned from being victims of a red card to becoming the masters of the game's new condensed reality. Paradoxically, their 10-man structure, by virtue of its extreme compactness and shared resolve, became a harder puzzle to solve than their standard 11-player formation might have offered. There were no gaps to exploit, no individual errors to pounce upon. The question, therefore, shifted emphatically to Manchester United. What was their plan? And why did it disintegrate so completely? For the ensuing 77 minutes, Manchester United played with a numerical advantage. Yet, for vast stretches, they were the side that appeared strained and under pressure. Despite monopolising possession, their play was characterised by a debilitating slowness. The ball moved in ponderous lateral patterns with no incisive forward momentum. This lack of tempo was catastrophic. Against a packed, organised defence, quick ball movement is essential to shift defenders, create openings and induce fatigue. United's slow, predictable circulation allowed Everton's defensive block to reset comfortably after every minor shift. The growing frustration from the Old Trafford stands was a mirror to the mounting tension on the pitch, a feedback loop of anxiety that United's players visibly absorbed. This is where the mental collapse became tangible. The on-field evidence was a catalogue of distress signals. Slumped shoulders following yet another repelled attack. Visible disagreements between teammates over errant passes, and a series of speculative, hopeful efforts from well outside the penalty area. These were not calculated attempts to test the goalkeeper. They were admissions of creative bankruptcy, clear flares of panic shot into the night sky by individuals who had collectively run out of ideas. This boiling frustration directly paved the way for Everton's decisive goal. As desperation mounted, United's tactical discipline evaporated. In the critical sequence, both fullbacks were positioned absurdly high and a central midfielder surged forward, leaving cavernous, unprotected space in behind. When Everton won possession, the counter-attack was devastatingly simple. A direct pass exploited the reckless overcommitment. It was a textbook punishment for a team whose frustration had obliterated their structural sense. A goal born from the pressure of their own failure to convert dominance into danger. This paralysis infected the entire attacking unit. Instead of using the extra man to stretch Everton's defence horizontally, pulling them apart to create gaps, United's forwards consistently drifted into the most congested central areas. They played directly into the heart of Everton's trap, making the defenders' jobs easier. The statistical story reveals this creative implosion. A high volume of aimless crosses flung into a box populated by determined defenders, and a near-total absence of penetrative, line-breaking passes that could have sliced the defence open. The players ceased to function as a coherent team executing a plan. They devolved into a collection of isolated individuals, each hoping for a moment of personal brilliance to rescue them. A moment that never arrived. The key psychological period was the 20 minutes immediately following the red card. Failing to establish a decisive lead or even a consistent threat in that window allowed doubt to seep in and the weight of expectation to become a paralysing burden. Everton's 10 men were energised by a collective, backs-to-the-wall spirit. United, in stark contrast, grew visibly deflated. Weighed down by the fear of failure, a fear that manifested in rushed decisions and deteriorating technical execution. When a collective collapse of this magnitude occurs, scrutiny naturally extends beyond the pitch to the technical area. The mistakes from manager Erik ten Hag were profound and extended far beyond the timing of his substitutions. As the game spiralled away, the camera's gaze repeatedly found the United bench, revealing a tableau of anxiety and disarray. The non-verbal cues, the frantic gestures, the blank stares, the lack of calm authority spoke volumes about a leadership vacuum at the precise moment it was needed most. A significant and recurring critique of Ten Hag is a perceived stubborn adherence to his preferred tactical framework, a system which can exhibit inherent vulnerabilities against a deep-lying, compact defensive block. Despite having over 3/4 of the game to adapt and experiment, there was a glaring refusal to make a fundamental tactical shift, effectively allowing his team to persist in banging their heads against the most fortified section of Everton's wall. The substitutions, when they belatedly arrived, did little to alter the game's stagnant narrative. They often felt like for-like changes that failed to address the core issue of predictability. The critical managerial failure was the inability to engineer more effective width to stretch Everton's compact shape. By maintaining a narrow focus, United's attack continued to funnel into the areas where Everton was strongest, amplifying the defensive success of the opposition. Even David Moyes noted post-match that United's approach needed to change after the red card, but the alteration was insufficient. This lack of in-game adaptability points towards a concerning rigidity, a system so prescriptive that it lacks a viable contingency plan. The visible panic from the pitch to the sideline suggests a fragile mentality ill-equipped to handle adversity or the unique pressure of expectation at Old Trafford.